In this video, I'm going to show you how to bring foundations into the Revit project. So I'm in the project, and right now, this is sheet A103. In the previous videos, I created these 3 sheets. For our foundations, we're going to be doing this work in level 0. So I'm going to click on that and go to that. So for this project, instead of just making one structure, we're actually going to build 4 different ones so we can experiment with different kinds of construction. So between column lines 1 and 3, there will be one structure. Between 4 and 6, there will be another. Between 7 and 9, there'll be a third. And between 4 and 12, there'll be a fourth. The first one we're going to do is going to be between column lines 1 and 3. And it will be a standard wall and wall footing or strip footing. I'm going to show you kind of roughly what we'll be producing for that one. So this is a very rough diagram that shows what the first and second structures are going to look like. This one on the left will be the one between column lines 1 and 3. And again, pardon the sloppiness of the sketch, but it was basically just to sort of illustrate where the levels are and where some of the building components will begin and end. So basically we have level 1, which will be our first floor, and we've already set up level 0, which will be kind of a basement level or a subgrade level. In that level, we will build some foundation walls. So that's what this is here. And there's a footing at the bottom. This line right here represents the top of the grade. Generally speaking, you want that to be below the foundation wall to keep water from penetrating. We'll get into those details a little bit later, though. But basically, this allows for a full height basement. So some of these dimensions that you see here are kind of thinking through that all the dimensional requirements that we would need. And we have a 4-inch slab at the bottom that just sits right on top of that footing. So back in the Revit model, again, I'm on level 0, and I'm going to zoom in a little bit to this area where I will start building the first foundation structure. I'm going to go to structure and wall. And when I click on this arrow here, I'll go down to where it says 12-inch retaining. Retaining wall made out of concrete. Okay. Now, before I go ahead and place those, it's going to default to wall center line. So the foundation would be centered on these grid lines, because I'm going to go around and click them. But I would prefer to have the orientation to be alignment with the finish face. Okay, now keep in mind that we need to go in a clockwise direction if we want to maintain that finish face towards the inside here. Okay, now I'm going to go ahead and add these before even coming through and changing some of the settings, and we'll get a notification that you can see that they're not visible in this plan. But what we'll do is we'll move them. So I'm just going to go around here and accept all of those warning messages. All right, so the default views in there, we've got floor plans, we've got some ceiling plans, elevations. Right now, we do not have a 3D view, so I'm going to go up to View and click on the 3D view. Okay. Now, the placement of these is incorrect at the moment. To illustrate that a little bit more, I'm going to go to the south view here. And you can see, I've got level 0, which should be the kind of basement level, and level 1, which is the top floor. And as I showed you in that diagram, I want them I want this foundation wall to be in this zone right here. So I'm going to go back to the 3D view. And you could make all these setting changes as you create the wall. I'm sort of doing it after. Click on an element, hold down the control button and the control key, and that's a way of selecting them. Now making the changes. So first thing I want to do is come down here and check this. So it says top constraint. I want to change that to be level 1. Make that change. And then from level 1, I'm going to make the top of my foundation wall at -1, 4 1/4. Okay, and then I'm going to go up to the base constraint, which is going to be level 0. But instead of having it 6 feet below, I'm going to change it to only -4 inches. And I'm going to hit apply. Okay, now let's go back to the south elevation. And you can see they're dropping just a little bit below level 0. And I'm going to have a concrete slab in there. And the top of the foundation wall is just below level 1. So our framing will sort of sit in that zone. The top of the subfloor will be at that level 1. All right, now I'm going to go back to the 3D view and I'll click to the bottom. So I'm looking at these walls from below. I'm going to deselect so they're no longer blue. I'm going to then place a footing at the bottom of these walls. So when I go to structure and there's a wall footing tool here, click on that. Now it's going to default to a 36-inch wide by 12-inch deep footing. And just so you can see how you would go about changing this, we'll create a duplicate of that. And we'll just change the dimensions a little bit. Okay, so I'm going to click on duplicate. And I'm going to make my footing, maybe it will keep it at 12 inches deep, but instead of 36, let's make it a little bit smaller. Remove the 2, so bearing footing 30-inch by 12, and then I'll change my dimensions here. This is going to be 2 feet 6 inches, which is the same as 30 inches. Apply and say OK. So now up here, you should see that the new footing type has been accepted. And I can go around and then click on the bottom of these walls. Okay, so just click on them and you'll see that that footing has been added. Okay, let's look at it from the south view now. So here we have a footing that runs along the bottom. And another thing that I'm going to do right now, this is something we'll kind of use as we draw, is I'll go to, let's say level 1. I'm going to create a section view. Click on view, go to section, and we'll just cut this across. And we'll move it perhaps, or we'll kind of define the extent of it. But right now we're just going to use it as a tool to visualize what we've constructed so far. So when I go down, now there's a new section view, section number 1. Okay, and it looks very similar to the south elevation, but you'll notice that these lines are heavier because this section is cutting through these building elements. Okay, so that is the foundation for the first structure. I'm going to go back to my 3D view. You can see the footing is now visible.